produced by the Cleveland Sound Radio Network. Here is the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show, hosted by Glenn Moore and Steve Guy.
And welcome to this week's episode of the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show right here on CLESound.com. Follow the station on Twitter at CLESound. Go to Facebook, CLESound. Make sure to follow us on iTunes and subscribe. Leave a comment, rate us. Download the show every week as we delve into the world of professional wrestling. And today, Steve, what are you doing on your phone? Are you sending something out?
Bitch. What's up, man? Just deleting some tweets, maybe.
Some
Instagram
photos.
Things. Yeah. Not my dong or anything. Nothing like that. Maybe. Some chick put it out.
You didn't put a Seth Rollins, did you?
You can't see my face.
No, it's pretty sad that we got to lead off the show that way, that we're not going to be talking about, I think, a pretty above-average Raw with Seth Rollins and his Twitter account and the whole ex-fiance fiasco that's going on.
I don't get it. Listen, Seth, brother, listen. You guest of the show.
No, hold on.
What?
I want you to talk to Seth
All right.
as Bray Wyatt. Go.
Okay. Oh, Seth, my brother, man, from coming to WWE. Now, listen here. When you send a picture of your dong, man, everybody knows in 2015, you're not supposed to put your face in it. And, man, when you do it, Seth Rollins, my brother, what you need to do is put it in Snapchat. Goes away after 3 seconds.
Yes. Seth Rollins, his Twitter account, social media accounts, sent out a photo of a NXT diva, which is smoking hot.
Oh yeah,
She's not going to be a diva for that long because she'll probably get fired here shortly.
It's fine. I hope the guys at AIW book her.
Well, scoop her up. So he sent a photo out. Well, not him. Somebody did, and it was of her. He's married. He's engaged. To someone else.
Also attractive.
She went out and posted photos of Seth Rollins, pretty much in the nude.
Yeah,
he is in the nude.
Well, they're saying that she actually is the one that hacked in and posted the picture of the NXT
This is what I think
lady.
happened, and we're not going to talk about this much because we don't want to.
Right, we got a big show to get to.
Well, that, and I don't want to upset WB because this is a very touchy subject.
Yeah,
and we have a lot of things coming up with them, hopefully. But what I think happened was his girlfriend found out via the cloud, via some kind of computer or whatever, found out that he was texting some other girl, sending photos for the cloud photos.
Yeah.
And then she found out. She went on, since they're married, they're engaged, live together. I'm sure his passwords were saved. She went out, posted the photo to show him, like, hey, he's doing his thing. Why is my phone blowing up?
Yeah.
Got in trouble. And then she goes out and posts, very timely, around where Raw is going to be trending, photos of him naked. And then she's commenting on Facebook that had been deleted. She's commenting on her Twitter that has been deleted. So it's a very messy situation.
Do you think it was a private dick? Like detective that figured it all out for her?
That wasn't a good joke. Don't use that for your comedy show. Trying to be a brother.
I had to say it. It was just there. The pun was there. I had to reach out and grasp it from my fireflies.
All I know is Seth Rollins, as a member of the Authority, he will try really hard to put this situation behind him.
Yeah.
And put it to bed. That's all we got to say.
I mean, as a heel, you almost can't erect a better storyline to piss people off than
Seth will rise up. He will rise up and overcome this. All right, let's talk about Raw.
Okay.
Raw was great. And the one thing we got to talk about is The Miz and Mizdow. This story, this gimmick, is taking off. And the clip last night from The Miz, a soundbite and premature "This is awesome" moment, was when the crowd is chanting, "You're from Cleveland," which was great. And then The Miz goes, better than Columbus. It was great. He got major heat. The Miz, okay, Seth Rollins is probably Lesnar's on the fence. You don't know if he's a face or a heel. Rollins is probably the second heel, but Miz, he's getting a lot more heat than he has been because of this whole gimmick.
Because of the Mizdow thing.
It's
because
great.
He's been such a jerk to Mizdow.
It's terrific, and they're slowly building. There's no end in sight. They're slowly building up a match for my fantasy WrestleMania, Miz versus Mizdow. It's going to be terrific, and I'm looking forward to it. But this gimmick is probably the best thing going in the WWE right now. It is. It was really good and hilarious. Also on Raw, I'm sorry, we're just gonna have to speed through everything. Yeah, because we have an awesome show. We haven't mentioned the guests for this. We haven't mentioned the guests. We do have a great show lined up for you in promoting the AIW show that's going to be in Cleveland. If you're local, if you're anywhere within, I don't know, a 90-mile radius of Cleveland, you should come out to this show next Friday night, February 20th. Go to AIWrestling.com. The I Choo Choo Choose You show from the guys at AIW. And on this show, we have Johnny Gargano, who will be in an awesome 6-man tag match in that, and one of the owners and operators of AIW, John Thorne, coming up later on the show. So that's why we're speeding a little bit through Monday Night Raw. But it's jam-packed show, and like I said, we're going to start. We don't have 3 hours. And I know most of our listeners are from around the country, and also if you're in the local area in Cleveland, but we want to promote local wrestling and the indie promotion and really push that out. Been to multiple AIW shows. Yeah. It's worth coming for. Like I said, if you're in like a 90-mile radius, show up. I've been to one. It was a CAPW, Cleveland All Pro Wrestling, back in 2009, and I went to try to do Body Slam Butterbean. Oh, yeah. Did not work out too well. Nobody was able to. The guy was a sweaty mess of 400 pounds of just muscle. And he is, yeah. He's a big dude. Didn't pick him off the ground. But it was a great show. Some who was there? Jessica Havoc was there, who now is with TNA. Madison Rain was there. So some low names. But these shows have great wrestling, and it's the Raw alternative. That's what their hashtag is, Raw alternative. If you don't like WWE Raw, there are indie shows online you can stream, download, go to YouTube that you can get your fill of real professional wrestling. But back to making our fans happy, because they're from all over the realm. We are going to talk back about Raw. We had a Sting appearance, sort of. A fake Sting. Multiple fake Stings. There's like 3 of them. Hey, how good was Triple H selling that, being scared? Great. That was great. I'm surprised he even sold it. Usually he was this Barry Sting and it's like, I'm not scared of you. Yeah. I did like the Daniel Bryan dig at Triple H to start the show where he goes, Stephanie's like, Daniel, I can't believe you put Kane in a casket. And then Daniel Bryan goes, well, considering what your husband has done in caskets. I love a good Katie Vick reference whenever it comes up. It's absolutely great. And then I posted the photo on Reddit with Triple H actually in the casket doing some things to the Katie Vick, which was back in the old before PG days. But right. Triple H's face was amazing. That was a good little dig there by Daniel Bryan. Did you like on Raw still a lot of the Authority versus everybody else storyline? I mean, Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns involved in 2 matches. Seth Rollins in 2 matches. Yeah. Too much? I liked the Raw because of the Sting, which was great. Building up towards that. That was the best Sting moment that you could have without Sting being there, probably. Absolutely. And then you have, to start the show out, you tease a Roman Reigns heel turn. A little bit. He's getting boozed. Daniel Bryan is the most over face in the company. You have them going at it, and then, like you said, you book a 5-on-2, and I was hoping that a Randy Orton would return and kind of even it out. That didn't happen, so the ending was kind of a downer. And I think what they're going to have is you're going to have the 3 versus you're going to have a 6-man match: Ziggler, Eric Rowan, and Ryback versus Kane, Big Show, and Seth Rollins at Fastlane. Yeah. Okay. So would you believe a female actually texted me yesterday, wanted to know my thoughts about the Daniel Bryan Roman Reigns situation and what I thought was going to happen and who was going to go to WrestleMania? She felt Daniel Bryan. I thought, well, you're sorely mistaken. But Daniel Bryan will be in the main event of WrestleMania. Yeah. All right. You think so? It's going to be a triple threat. Did you hear the dirt sheets? Vince McMahon called a meeting. Going back and forth. Well, you trust Wrestling Observer. I trust Dave. Metzler.
I don't know.
I
Saw
trust
it on
him.
a couple different things back and forth here. Yeah.
But they're going to do a triple threat. They're going to have Roman and Daniel Bryan and involved with Brock Lesnar because of Daniel Bryan's so over the crowd reaction.
I just feel like we've done that. We've already done it. Really, another triple threat match?
The only way
He's
you can
win?
Okay, I would be happy with that. I'm okay with that. Only if Seth Rollins cashes in and leaves WrestleMania as a champion.
Yeah, you can't do that. Oh, you gave into the crowd for Daniel Bryan to win.
But you have to. He is the most over guy in the WWE.
Crowds were all over Roman Reigns and cheering for him at first.
That's before she was shoved down our throats.
Well,
and he can't talk. He keeps messing up his promos.
That's why they should hire me to be Roman Reigns' advocate. I would be awesome at it. I would.
You just want this advocate.
I'm really excited about
my
this.
advocate.
Listen,
you want to be?
I do. I'm going to be your advocate when you start training. But
it's going to be a female.
I think that to combat Roman Reigns against Brock Lesnar, I would be an awesome advocate to go against Paul Heyman. No. I just want to talk on a mic against Paul Heyman.
No, you won't.
Get great stuff.
He would eat you
talk
alive.
about the authority, and I can make fun of them and be like, J&J Security, what are you guys doing? Jamie Noble, everybody remembers, 5 years ago when you were just white trash, and then Joey Mercury, you just hang out with Seth Rollins because it reminds you of the chick you used to hang out with that had a streak in her hair.
Come on.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
No.
Sorry, I'm going to have fun with that.
No.
All right, what else happened on Raw that you loved? Rusev John Cena? Did you like it?
I like that.
It got a little real there.
Yeah.
Until he got poked in the eye. Come on. I get he has an eye injury, but really, that's what debilitated you, John Cena?
I did like Rusev saying, "You can't even see me."
Yeah.
I love Rusev. That was terrific. So there were some good highlights. A guy that I follow on Twitter and read his Raw deal is John Canton. He's a big guy when it comes to recapping Raw and giving his opinions and stuff. And he gave Raw a 4 out of 10. I thought it was above average Raw. He didn't like the fact that at the end there wasn't any kind of surprise, and he thinks this Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan thing is just nothing really to get excited about. I think they're not going to turn him heel just yet, but the way that they're booking him, Reigns, I like the way I can tolerate Reigns as the heel, maybe not totally a heel, but between him and Bryan, he's the bad guy. People are booing him and cheering for Bryan. And I like how the sneaky tag, did the spear. Bryan did all the work.
It's like
Reigns
we need
just
to
came
go
in.
back to the days of the Attitude Era when you loved The Rock and you loved Stone Cold, but then there were moments where they had to go up against each other, and then they'd be in a tag team together like that.
Yes.
And, remember when The Rock came back and they had the Alliance, I think, at the time, ECW, WCW, and Stone Cold was running that.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, come back on our team, and then they sang in the ring, and The Rock says, oh, The Rock loves you, great, but The Rock never forgets. And then Rock bottoms him there after they're walking around and holding each other's arms. That was sweet. Something like that. Maybe then this could go somewhere. Could the WWE have accidentally stumbled upon the next rivalry to help usher more things in?
Daniel Bryan versus
Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Because you have such an opposite and clash of styles, but sometimes you get the best matches when you can marry those two things together. Like we've talked about it, and countless people have talked about it online and whatnot, and dirt sheets, is that Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, it's very difficult because it's such a similar style. What do you do with that?
Yeah.
And it always makes a great match when you have two totally different styles. And you have that in Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan. But Roman Reigns is also capable to do some other things, outside of what we typically see him doing. And Daniel Bryan can bring that out of you.
What people don't understand is that it takes two guys to make a match. And this is
Absolutely.
going way beyond probably the average fan listening. Is you need someone in the ring that can lead the match, that's calling out the spots. And I know we're getting a little bit too much into wrestling, but
right.
Roman Reigns versus Lesnar, that's two left feet dancing with each other. You can't do that because neither guy can lead a match. Roman Reigns isn't there yet, and Lesnar has never been that guy to do it. He's just a power guy.
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan can do that. And, talking with Johnny Wrestling that we talked about, with him later on the show, is that, he's wrestled hundreds and hundreds of matches, excellent matches, and he's not only a great worker, but he can lead a match. And I think a match like the WrestleMania needs someone in there. Yeah, triple threat, 2 years in a row, big whoop, but he's the most over guy. he's a guy that can make that match a lot better than just Lesnar versus Reigns, because I think it'll be a snore fest. Two big guys. Like you said, you add an extra element, a small guy, athletic guy, that can bring a whole bunch of new techniques to this match and to the table.
Yeah. Now, as we talk about the road to WrestleMania and Life in the Fast Lane coming up. So I heard that song the other day, by the way. Totally thought of you. I didn't text you or anything. So I thought, oh, he's going to think this is ridiculous. But still no appearances. Two big pieces missing that we're sure are going to show up somewhere.
Please don't say Sheamus.
No.
Thank you.
Randy Orton, still out there lurking in the shadows.
Slithering.
And Bray Wyatt seems like being built up to look strong. Another consecutive victory over Ziggler. Clean one for the most part this time around. Will The Undertaker be returning? Will either of these guys return before the Fast Lane? Will they return at it? Will they return after it?
I think Taker will come after Fast Lane, and all these Wyatt promos are at the Taker. You can tell they are.
Yeah.
I used to fear you. And like what? Okay, the thing is too, when he says, go home and find me. When he says go home, he looks up like at the WrestleMania
right
sign.
at WrestleMania, yeah.
Like he looks, he the whole promo, he's looking straight ahead. But like when he says go home, he looks up in the corner of his eye like he would be looking at the WrestleMania sign. So it's, I mean, I'm thinking maybe a little bit too much about that, but
maybe it's Shawn Michaels then.
No,
just kidding.
Hopefully it's not. No, I was never. We talked to Johnny Wrestling about.
Love Shawn Michaels.
I didn't like Shawn Michaels at all.
Well, he's not your body type, so maybe you couldn't. Johnny and Shawn Michaels have the similar kind of body type, so we might.
I was more of a Spike Dudley kind of guy.
Sure,
no,
right.
I wasn't.
Spike Dudley.
I wasn't. No, definitely not.
When do you think Randy Orton's coming back? Before Fastlane?
I think at Fastlane somehow.
And your booked 6-man tag match that you have now.
Yeah.
You think Randy Orton comes back at the end of that to take out
somehow, some way? Yeah, he will. He will, or have him come out Orton come out throughout the night and ruin the match with Reigns and Daniel Bryan or something like that, and to piss the Authority off. Rollins will try to get involved, and Orton will come out at the end and interfere, getting Rollins out of there, and then Bryan and Reigns can have a clean finish. Something like that. Do
Cena and Rusev have a follow-up match at WrestleMania?
Yes, I think so, because I think this will go no DQ. I don't think you have Rusev go over Cena, because why would Cena want a rematch? I mean, why would they? That's bad booking. You have Rusev and Cena probably. This is what I would do. I would have Rusev just overpower Cena. That eye is going to be a factor. Cena can't continue. He never quit. Didn't get pinned, but the referee says John Cena cannot continue. So Rusev retains. Then at WrestleMania, Cena's more healed, and he's able to fight. I think Cena will beat Rusev. I think it will bring some prestige back to these little titles, the U.S. title, Intercontinental, like especially U.S. Is if Cena holds it and defends it, I think it will bring up the storylines for these titles. I think are need a little bit more pub.
Yeah, good. I mean, the direction seems to be getting clearer for WrestleMania. What I think is funny is we start to picture the WrestleMania card, but the Fastlane card, still seems a little bit confusing.
It's
still
they are on the fly
foggy.
Because of Royal Rumble and Roman Reigns. They are switching everything up because I'm sure they had other plans. Because I'm sure this Reigns Daniel Bryan match wasn't going to happen at Fastlane. They're going to have different things for these different guys. And now you have, what you got to do with Rollins, and what are you going to do with Ziggler and Ryback? You got to, it's on the fly. And I think this is going to, Fastlane maybe a nice watch, but I feel that the way these writers are, and they're not wrestling writers, they are Hollywood script writers, is that Fastlane it's not going to be the kind of get me excited for WrestleMania. I don't think it will.
Yeah, not in the way that the Elimination Chamber used to.
Because you had 6 guys going for a title. You didn't know who was going to win.
Yeah, there was a huge element of surprise to it.
Exactly.
Just because somebody won Royal Rumble didn't mean that you knew who they were going to take on at WrestleMania, because you still had the Elimination Chamber coming up. So, I mean, that was awesome. Should we get to these interviews? People are waiting for it, I feel like. What do you think?
2 great interviews. here, and this adds to the list of our interviews right here on CLE Sound and This Is Awesome Wrestling Show.
I hear Cleveland Sound, CLE Sound. I don't know what you want to say. But before we get to those, yes, stick to us, obviously, next week. We will have another interview for that. But the road to Fastlane could be a little bit clearer. We might find out what happened. It's going to be interesting. Maybe we'll talk about SmackDown finally, since it gets taped the day after Seth Rollins things happen.
Yes.
We'll see what goes down. But in the meantime, AIW Wrestling, we're going to talk all about that coming up here with Johnny Gargano, Johnny Cleveland, Johnny Wrestling, the Cat's Pajamas, the Bee's Knees,
the whole shebang. The King of Cleveland.
King of Cleveland, whatever you want to call him. That's coming up. And then also John Thorne. Lots to talk about with them. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah. And John Thorne is the promoter of AIW.
Promoter,
excellent indie promotion here in Cleveland. If you are in the Cleveland area, make sure to check them out. And if you're not in the Cleveland area, go on YouTube and check out some great matches that they have up on the AIW YouTube channel. There's some great matches if you want to see some great intergender matches. We talk about it all with Johnny Wrestling and also John Thorne here. So after the break, we're joined by Johnny Wrestling himself, King of Cleveland, and also the owner and founder and president of AIW, John Thorne, right here on CLESound.com. Thanks for downloading this week's show, but we want to hear from you. Send your questions, comments, or concerns to me, Glenn. The email is glenn@clesound.com. That's glenn@clesound.com. And your question could be read during the show.
We have a special treat for you guys, especially the local listeners. We do have a couple of guests on this particular episode of This Is Awesome Wrestling Show. But joining us right now, he's going to be a part of the I Choose You show from AIW. That's Friday, February 20th. There's still general admission seats left for $20. Line up at 6:45. Get a seat in there at Mount Carmel. But we have none other than the Cat's Pajamas.
The Bee's Knees.
The Bee's Knees.
The whole shebang.
The whole shebang. All heart. Johnny Gargano from Cleveland, Ohio, joining us right now. Johnny, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm sorry you had to go through all my ridiculous nicknames to introduce me.
Somebody has to every show
true.
You're on, right?
It's true.
So, I mean, it might as well be us now at this point.
It's a prerequisite. That's when someone contacts me to come to a show, I'm like, you have to hit all these nicknames. You got to get them in order. You got to get them right, or else I'm not going to talk now.
Now, there's a Johnny Manziel here in Cleveland, Johnny Football, and there's a King James, LeBron. Now, you kind of have both of those because you say you're the King of Cleveland.
Yes.
And you also say Johnny Wrestling.
Yes.
So are they piggybacking off of you or?
No. Oh, see, it's funny because the King of Cleveland thing wasn't even like my thing. I didn't come up with it. I wasn't like, oh, guys, I'm the King of Cleveland. Give me a crown. I wasn't like that at all. Just like I wrestled. It was at AIW actually, and I wrestled Bryan Danielson, otherwise known as Daniel Bryan.
Sure.
And we went to a 30-minute draw. And after the match, they just started chanting King of Cleveland to me. And I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. Then after every match, after that, they started chanting King of Cleveland. And I was like, oh, well, I guess this is a thing now. And so that just kind of took off. And then the Johnny Wrestling thing was more of a joke I made on Twitter once. This was before Johnny Manziel even won the Heisman Trophy.
Right.
I was just like, oh, he's Johnny Football, and I was a fan of him, and I was like, oh, I'm Johnny Wrestling. And I said it on Twitter, and I was like, this isn't going to be anything. And it wasn't anything for a long time. But then, he blew up and he got drafted, and all that type of stuff happened. And especially in Cleveland, he became a big name in Cleveland, and then all of a sudden, like, the Johnny Wrestling thing took off. And I was like, man, maybe it's just a Cleveland thing. Maybe it's just, he plays in Cleveland now. Maybe it's just a Johnny Wrestling Cleveland thing. But then I went to Buffalo, New York, and they chanted Johnny Wrestling. And I went to New York City, and they chanted Johnny Wrestling. I went to Los Angeles, and they chanted Johnny Wrestling. And I was like, well, I guess I should probably capitalize on this. And I made shirts, and people like it. So that's right now, I think that's my most popular nickname is Johnny Wrestling.
Johnny Wrestling?
I think it's my favorite as well.
Over the Cat's Pajamas.
I think so.
All right. No, it's fine. To each his own.
Like I say like the Bee's Knees, the Cat's Pajamas, the whole shebang. I say that in like a row. Like when someone just calls me the Cat's Pajamas, I'm like,
It's true. It's got to be all of it together.
It's got to be like all three in a row. You got to rattle them off.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And now it's just Johnny Wrestling.
Now it's just Johnny Wrestling. That seems like it's easier to say too.
I do love. I was watching one of the matches from New York, and just continuously telling the crowd that you're their hero.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. That's another little thing that I do. Like, that's my heel character. Is I do that a lot. And like the other thing that's funny about the Johnny Wrestling thing, it's totally doesn't fit my character whatsoever to do the money sign. It doesn't fit it at all.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not some rich guy. I'm just a dude.
Yeah.
But like I was in New York. I was in New York City a couple days ago, and I made my entrance and I came out and I looked into the crowd and there was a sea of people just with their arms in the air doing the money sign. And I'm like, what? I guess they all want it back, so I got to give it back, and people love it. And it just doesn't fit me whatsoever. It fits Johnny Manziel really well.
Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't fit me at all.
You don't need to go to rehab.
No, they also chanted Johnny Rehab at me because I was a heel this weekend.
Oh, well, there you
go. So they
go.
chanted Johnny Rehab at me afterwards.
Yeah.
So, you know.
It seems, because of the Cleveland background and everything, it seems awfully difficult, and I've been to multiple AIW shows, for you to be a heel there. Like, probably
I don't
no
think
matter
I
how
can
hard
be.
you
I don't
try.
think I can be a heel in Cleveland because like I have a very unique connection with those fans too,
Right.
Because they've seen me grow up since they've watched me wrestle basically since I was 17 years old, and here I am at 27. So 10 years of watching me, and they got to watch me when I was just really horrible, probably out of shape little dude that was just trying to be a professional wrestler. And I guess I'm somewhat successful now, you can say. So they feel like there's a sense of pride in them.
Yeah.
That I am from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm very proud that I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I represent it everywhere I go, and I think they're like, oh, that's our guy, you know. So they can kind of take my successes with them.
The resume's, I mean, strong in terms of guys that people can see on TV now that you've partnered with, you know, from Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, Tyler Black, now Seth Rollins, Kevin Steen, now Kevin Owens, Chris Sabin, as we talked about last year, coming out of TNA. Am I missing anybody?
EC3, Luke Harper, when he wrestled here at Brody Lee. Dean Ambrose. I watched the old Dean Ambrose promo from like 6 years ago. He looks so different as John Moxley, but a lot of guys have come through Cleveland or from the area that have gone on to better things. And I feel like this is kind of not a breeding ground, but kind of a big stepping stone for a lot of guys' career to come through here and wrestle here. And you've been in the ring with a lot of these guys too. I mean, obviously you want to be there. You're 27 years old. This is kind of the time where is it going to happen or not going to happen? But is it next step WWE, or are you happy with what you're doing indie? Because I know like in interviews you've said you want to do the indie scene first and kind of conquer that before moving on. Are you feeling you're at that point now, or are you there's still stuff left to do?
I look at guys like Daniel Bryan. I look at guys like CM Punk, guys like that. And I mentioned this before. They did everything they possibly could. And I don't know if I'm there yet. It's one of those things where if it happens, it's going to happen. I'm not of the mindset of I'm going to go out and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm just of the mindset of everything happens for a reason. Yeah. I've been very, very lucky. I've put in a lot of hard work, but I've been very, very lucky. And like you said, I've had the opportunity to get in the ring with all of those guys. Yeah. All of those guys are phenomenal talents. It's really interesting for me now to grow up a wrestling fan and to go to WWE shows and just to idolize these guys. And now if I watch the program, I'm like, well, I know that guy. I know that guy. I have that guy's number on my phone. I've wrestled that guy. I can text that guy right now. It's just all of my friends are on television right now. So it's very interesting to me to sit back and watch that. I'm incredibly proud of those guys because they deserve every bit of that. But for me personally, if I ever get to a point where I feel like I'm not creatively, like I'm not excited to go to a town and wrestle, if I'm not like, oh, I got to go to Los Angeles this weekend, I got to wrestle for PWG, like, oh, this sucks, I'm so upset about that. If I get to that point, then maybe there's time for a change. Yeah. Right now, I'm very happy with what I'm doing. I'm truly blessed at getting the opportunity to go around the world and do what I love to do, how I want to do it. I have the freedom to wrestle how I want to wrestle, wherever I want to wrestle. And I think that speaks volumes to me that there's no machine backing me. There's no multi-million-dollar company behind me, pushing me, telling the fans that they should like me. Yeah. I'm out there doing this on my own merit. I'm going to England at the end of the month on my own merit. I am somehow, by the grace of God, able to go there and perform and have people like me and want to see me in different countries. So I'm very, very lucky, and I'm going to continue to do that until I feel like maybe I need to take another step and I need to be, more proactive in doing that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with not only the pro wrestling, but also any kind of job. You work hard, you build up your resume, you work maybe your own website, your own writing, and then you get hired by a major corporation. You kind of lose that control of what you want to do. So now I know WB is like the ultimate peak and ultimate goal for anybody who wants to be professional wrestling, but you feel like once you get there, you kind of lose that control over yourself, and if they plug this character onto you and it doesn't work, ultimately it's your job. And it's a decision probably of, hey, I'm having fun doing this. I control my character, or do I go to WB and I'm on TV every week? It must be a hard decision, life decision to make that, because you want control over yourself.
Absolutely, and don't get me wrong. When we're all fans, and when I was growing up, I watched WWE, WF, and everyone dreams of main eventing WrestleMania.
Yeah.
If you get into professional wrestling, your dream is to work for WWE and main event WrestleMania. I don't care who you are. I mean, I love independent professional wrestling. I went to those shows, and that's what really made me fall in love with wrestling, was going to these indie shows in that small, intimate atmosphere, being that close to the action, just watching these guys go out there and pour their heart out, maybe, 5 feet in front of me. That is what really made me fall in love with wrestling. But I think everyone's dream is to ultimately go on and do bigger and better things, and I can't say what's going to come in my future, but if that happens one day, great. If it doesn't, then I've been very, very lucky with what I've done, and I'm very proud of what I've done.
You were the champion of Liechtenstein, though.
I am. I currently am. I don't think the title was on the line in the match.
That's true.
So I think I currently still am the champion of Liechtenstein.
You're like Brock Lesnar. You just
Cedric Von Hassen.
You just defend it every once in a while.
Yeah, I haven't defended it in
just show up TV.
probably like 10 years. It's been a long
it's
gap.
Been a while.
I don't think there's any rules or regulations on it, though.
No,
there isn't like a 30-day
no compete
no.
Okay.
It's just every maybe 15 years. So maybe in 5 more years, I'll don the lederhosen again, and I'll get back in the ring.
I feel like maybe for an AIW show,
I don't know.
You need to put it on the line.
Maybe the people of AIW Cleveland want to see Cedric Von Hassen ride one more time.
I think I mean, why not? I think we've all been waiting for it for this long.
There's probably forums. There's so many. Reddit probably has a Cedric Von Hassen.
Oh yeah. Look, if the cast of Saved by the Bell could get back together, on Jimmy Fallon, then clearly there is.
I mean, I think I read on WWE.com most beloved characters in the history of professional wrestling: Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Cedric Von Hassen. Just fits right in there.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that's interesting, and we were talking about before we got started here, the name of the show, I Choose You, stems from yourself and your lady, and as Glenn alluded to previously, the intergender matches and your guys' training method. Tell our listeners what the hell that's like. I mean, we have a lot of nerds that listen that have never wrestled with a girl in a bedroom, let alone in the ring. So this is good.
I'm one of them too, though. So to be fair, I'm one of them too. So I'm. You don't look at me and you're like, that's the coolest guy I've ever seen in my life. No, not at all. But yeah, AIW, John Thorne. He came to training one day, and me and my girlfriend Candice LeRae run the AIW wrestling training school. And we get in the ring and we roll around a little bit. It's going to sound really sexual, but it's not. We roll around a little bit and we do professional wrestling things. And he came in one day and he just came up with the idea from looking at the two of us that the next AIW event should be I Choose You. And then there was a flyer made, I think within a day. There was a flyer already made up of me and her on the flyer. And it was one of the biggest pre-sales in AIW history. Just based on the flyer, I guess, that our relationship is really over, apparently. People love it, and they want to come see it. But I think in the year 2015, intergender wrestling is really taking off.
Yeah.
I like I mentioned, my girlfriend Candice LeRae is probably, for my money, in my unbiased opinion, the best at it. I think she is absolutely phenomenal. Just because she's my girlfriend, I'm not even saying this. She probably won't even listen to this because she doesn't care what I do. She is a phenomenal athlete, a phenomenal professional wrestler. Man or woman, she's absolutely fantastic. And so you should go out of your way and see her and whatever. But I think intergender wrestling is something that is fresh. It's new. It's exciting. There's so many different stories you can tell with it.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned, creativity. I think when you get a man and a woman, you've seen man and man versus man matches and girl versus girl matches.
Right.
But when you get a man and a woman, you can get so creative with that. And there's such a fresh fresh palette you can paint on with your picture and your story you want to tell there. And like you guys were saying, yeah, it gets very physical.
Oh, yeah.
It gets very, very physical. I will say, like, because she is my girlfriend, I felt I could not. I don't think I'm going to apologize the next day.
Right.
I'll wake up next to her and be like, oh, you got a bruise. I got a bruise too. It's no big deal. But like I was saying, like, it's funny that night you mentioned is in particular because like my parents came and her family came, and it was just a big family gathering to watch these two new lovers kill each other.
I imagine that's how like a West Virginia wedding goes, right?
Yeah.
They all
I
get
think
together
so.
and they just wrestle.
Yeah,
there
that's
you
what
go.
happens. That's what happens. But no, intergender wrestling is something that's a lot of people look down on it. You know, they're like, "Oh, you're a guy. Why would you be fighting a girl?" Or
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
like that. I mean, so many people have different opinions, but it's not for everybody. But it's just like music. I mean, it's subjective. Some people are going to like some things. Some people aren't going to like the other things. But I'd say give it a shot. At least watch a match. And if you don't like it, that's fine. But if you do like it, cool. Love it and support it. That's just like with anything in professional wrestling.
Do you have those moments when you're wrestling her in particular because she is your girlfriend, where she takes a bump and you're like, oh, and you just kind of want to check on her?
Oh,
and then
absolutely.
You got to catch yourself.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, wait, no.
Absolutely. There's those moments where I'm like, oh man, I just kicked my girlfriend in the face. In any other realm, this would be really illegal. But you know, I'm not like Ray Rice or anything, so I'm fine.
As long as it's in a ring and not on an
It's in a
elevator.
ring. Like anything.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing about professional wrestling. Anything can happen in a professional wrestling ring, and it's completely legal. Doesn't matter what you do. If I was to boot my girlfriend outside, like in here right now, I'm going to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in a professional wrestling ring, it's completely fine.
And the thing is, it's believable, and it like watching intergender WWE where they do those gimmick matches and the girl wins by a small package. You know, it's not realistic. And watching you and her, the highlights of that match, it really, I mean, it's not like it looked real, but it looked legit when she won. It looked like she actually earned to win that match, and it's just that was my first witnessing a intergender match of that quality, and it was just off the charts.
Oh,
And
thank
it
you.
makes me, I mean, want to watch, but also it was believable, which
Yeah.
I think professional wrestling we kind of lost that a little bit.
Absolutely. And I think there's certain ways to do it. I mean, if I was to go in there and I was just to get beat up by her for 25 minutes, right? That may suspend disbelief a little bit.
Right.
But if you're able to go in there and tell a good story and make it somewhat believable and have everything look pretty decent, then I think you can get emotionally invested in it. And that's really the trick. If everyone comes to a professional wrestling show and they know, like, they've heard this isn't a real thing. But if you can get someone to suspend their disbelief for a second, they're like, wow, he really got her on that one.
Yeah.
And oh man, she's fighting back.
She should really do the dishes.
Yeah,
next
yeah,
time.
yeah. Absolutely. If you make people think that for even a second, then you're doing your job correctly. So,
NXT is coming to town here in Cleveland, and Triple H said in the conference call today that they're going to be touring a lot more. And I don't want to say that's a shot towards the indies, but I feel like they kind of want to compete with local indie scenes. Now, you're in the indie scene, and you experienced, being up there and doing tryout matches and whatnot. Do you feel like if NXT does go on a touring, spree and tours different towns, that it will take away from the indie scene, or do you think that even though these people are not at the main roster yet, that it's still separate WB indie scene?
I think it can do nothing but help it, honestly.
Yeah.
Because good wrestling is good wrestling. If NXT comes to Cleveland, Ohio, and a bunch of people come to that show, and they see guys like Kevin Steen, Kevin Owens, they see guys like Sami Zayn, see guys like all those guys that are absolutely phenomenal. The NXT roster is off the charts.
Yeah.
Like, I can't say enough good things about it. It's really a dream indie wrestling roster if you look at it.
Yeah.
They come to Cleveland, Ohio, and a new fan is like, oh man, like NXT, I want to go and see this.
Yeah.
And they go and see it, and they enjoy themselves. And it's going to be a smaller, more intimate atmosphere,
Yeah.
these shows they're running. And they go and see that, and they enjoy themselves. Maybe they're going to be like, oh man, there's another show. Oh man, I want to see more good wrestling.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the AIW show now, and I'm going to see more good wrestling. Oh, what? Kevin Steen used to wrestle for AIW? Oh man, I want to see who could potentially be the next Kevin Steen.
Right.
So I think it can do nothing but help independent professional wrestling. Good wrestling is good wrestling. I think wrestling is hopefully approaching a boom period where it's just going to take off, and hopefully NXT can help provide some enhancement in that.
I feel like I want to know. Johnny's been around for a little bit here. and the guys that you have already wrestled that have made it to a main WWE roster, but is there, whether it's a guy you've wrestled just in AIW or any other promotion, big name now, not a big name, a dream matchup that you would have, person, past, present, whatever, and location, like venue, all of it. You could have like a Johnny Gargano. This is it. This is your moment. You're going out. This is the one match you've ever wanted.
If we're going based on just anyone, I can pick anyone in the world.
Anybody you want.
Okay.
And you can wrestle anywhere you want.
Okay.
If you don't say Cleveland, people are gonna be pissed
I'm
off.
gonna say Cleveland.
Okay.
I was gonna say Cleveland. I'm gonna call it Cleveland Brown Stadium.
All right.
They run a wrestling show there for some reason. WrestleMania is there for some reason.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. They're talking about WrestleMania being in Columbus at the Horseshoe.
Yeah,
so they were like, hey, screw it. We're going to go to Cleveland instead.
Yeah.
NXT does really well. And they're like, we're going to WrestleMania. So we'll say Cleveland Brown Stadium. The main event of WrestleMania. Sure, why not? They ran WrestleMania. And it's going to be Johnny Gargano versus Shawn Michaels in a 60-minute Iron Man match.
Wow.
That would be awesome.
That's what I'm going to say. Shawn Michaels going to have to come out of retirement for that one. But, yeah, Shawn Michaels is always my go-to guy for everything. He was my favorite growing up. And I've said this multiple times in multiple interviews, but it still reigns true. It's always amazing to me that Shawn Michaels is my favorite wrestler, because if you look back at Shawn Michaels when I was growing up in the years of 1995 and 1996, he was basically a male stripper. That was basically his gimmick.
Essentially, yeah.
He was a male stripper.
That
so
long
basically, my
earring
whole
and,
childhood, I idolized the male stripper. And you think I would have grew up being really messed up?
This is before Magic
I turned
Mike
out
even came
okay.
out.
I turned out okay, but yeah. So I dressed as him for Halloween. So basically, if you're not a wrestling fan, if you see this little 8-year-old boy walking around,
You want to slap
you're like,
the parents.
You're like,
yeah.
these parents let this kid dress like a male stripper for Halloween. But yeah. So me versus Shawn Michaels, main event of WrestleMania, Cleveland Brown Stadium, 60-minute Iron Man match.
I'm gonna go one further on it.
Uh-oh.
Because this is awesome wrestling show.
Okay.
What's your crowd chanting "This is awesome" spot in that match for you?
Oh, for me? Oh, I've thought about this many times.
I sensed that you had.
So as a big falsie, big kick out, it's coming near the end. Shawn Michaels tunes up the band. Here he comes. He goes to throw it, but I super kick him instead. He goes down 1-2. He kicks out. I go to the corner. I'm tuning up the band now. I hit Shawn Michaels with his own super kick. 1-2. He kicks out. So probably we both exchange sweet chin musics here and there. So that's probably going to be my. But I'm going to say I'm a real life crazy person. I'm going to say that in advance because I've done things at indie shows in front of like 200 people that are just horrible for my body, horrible decisions. So I don't even want to imagine what I would do in Cleveland Brown Stadium in front of a jam-packed people against Shawn Michaels. I would die. That would be it.
Are you coming down on a zip line?
Oh yeah. Zip line, the whole deal. But I would die. I wouldn't. That would be my last match because I would kill myself literally in the match doing something ridiculous. So a lot of this is awesome chance will probably be in as they cart my dead lifeless body off.
Fair enough.
You mentioned that training school. You're the head trainer and whatnot. Now, I've always wanted to be a professional wrestler. That was my dream, and I did my secondary was be a sports reporter and do that and be able to have fun with that. But I'm 31 years old and I still want to be a professional wrestler. Now, if I wanted to do that, or any Joe Schmo off the street, and you have a class and whatnot, you probably get the smallest kids to the biggest guys. What is probably the certain requirements that a person needs to become a professional wrestler?
I wouldn't say there's any set requirement people need. This is going to sound really hokey and really cheesy, but I'd say heart is the biggest prerequisite to wanting to be a professional wrestler. Because I feel if you really truly want it, if it's your dream, if you've always wanted to give it a shot, and you truly love professional wrestling, there's no reason not to try it. If it's in your heart and you want to give your all and you're willing to give your all, because it's very physically taxing.
Yeah.
We've had guys who are huge former high school football players. They come in, they're jacked up, they're super athletic, and they go through the first day and they don't ever come back.
Wow.
Because they don't truly love it.
Yeah.
then you have these guys who are kind of athletic. You know, they're not the best athlete. I'm not the best athlete. They're not the best athlete, and they're smaller, but they get through things right away because they love professional wrestling and they're never going to stop.
Yeah.
That's what I always tell someone when they ask me if they should give it a shot. I said, if you love it, if you've always wanted to do it, there's no reason not to try it. You always have to give it your all because you don't want to regret not giving it your all. You don't want to be like 45 years old, 50 years old, and be like, oh, I should have tried the wrestling thing. Because if you truly love it and you have the heart for it, give it a shot because why not?
Glenn Moore's dream matchup right now is in a squash match against me.
Yeah?
He just wants to just throw me around.
What would you do? How would you finish it?
He probably wants to hit me over with a
good
chair
question.
multiple times.
It would be hardcore for sure.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I'm a heel. I would love being a heel.
What's your wrestling name going to be?
I have no clue. I haven't even thought about this that much. I mean, I dreamed about it as a kid, but not as a name. I guess you probably need that.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about this 6-man tag match that you're going to be in next Friday. I don't know. Give me something exciting about it.
EC3.
What are you looking forward to the most out of this?
EC3 is going to show next week, too.
Yeah, we've got the guys still in independent. We've got the guys that are on TV.
Yep.
Are you going to like take this from the underdog standpoint and be like, F
We
you
are
guys?
really the underdogs, I'd say. This has been building for a few months now. It was supposed to be me and EC3 1-on-1. Of course, he was injured, so it ended up being me and M-Dog Matt Cross, another Cleveland guy who's really just repping Cleveland everywhere he goes.
He's got
absolutely
a sweet
phenomenal.
beard.
Yeah, he does got
We're
a sweet
big fan
beard.
of beards on the show.
He does got a sweet beard. So we did that the 1 month. The next month was supposed to be a tag match with me and Josh Prohibition against M-Dog and EC3, but EC3 did not come. Again, EC3 just... Oh, man, want to get my hands on him,
Go
right?
ahead, continue to call him out because
Eastside
he's going to be
guys,
on
you know?
next week.
Come on, got to get my hands on him.
Those Willoughby guys.
So then Zima Ion, DJ Z, came in his place, and then now it's a big 6-man tag. It's me, Josh Prohibition, and one of my trainees, Alex Daniels, against EC3, Raymond Rowe, and DJ Z. So the dudes on TV against really the guys who aren't on TV, but really giving it their all in indie shows. So it's going to be very exciting. We'll see if EC3 actually shows up. I don't even know. He hasn't been there the last 2 times. I have a feeling he's going to be there. I have a feeling.
We're gonna have to let him listen to this so he can respond next week.
Yeah, he's going to be on the show next week.
Yeah.
Oh, so he'll be in town. So that's good at least.
Well, he didn't confirm to be in town.
No, he's not coming.
It might be over the phone.
He's not coming.
No, the trash talking starting early.
It is.
On This Is Awesome Wrestling Show. I love it. It's like we're helping push this feud here.
You are.
We got to start ours.
It's not much of a feud though until a guy shows up, I guess.
Yeah, right.
To your point.
He's only here once. He hasn't showed up ever since. Then he sent Ryan Nemeth. He sent Briley Pierce in his place last time as well. A former St. Edward graduate as well.
So is that who you really want to get your hands on at this point, EC3?
I'd say yes. It was supposed to be me and EC3. People were very excited for it.
Oh, it's been a great match.
Turner's Hall was jam-packed, ready to see me and EC3 tear it up, and just he couldn't go because his bicep.
His arm, yeah.
I think he's healed now. I think he's good to go. So
I don't know. Maybe he's not. I always side with the heel, so I always side with the bad guys.
I gotta side with my Cleveland guys. Well, I guess.
Oh, he's a
he is
Cleveland guy.
I know that's tough. All right,
It's like East Side
Johnny's
versus
still
West
here.
Side.
Johnny's still
that's
here
true.
right
I'm
now.
here. Next week you can side with him.
Yeah.
You've been all over the world. You've done it all. You won championships, major championships in certain promotions. You're currently the champion for Dragon Gate, correct?
Yep.
And you had a reign of 873 days. You defended the title 21 times. That is the longest reign in Dragon Gate.
Yep.
And it's 21 title defenses in that time, too. So
That's why he's everyone's hero.
You are the best in the world. I mean, CM Punk, was bragging about his reign in WWE, and obviously there was more with,
This is
back
Bruno
when he won.
Sammartino territory here.
I mean, 873 days.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Long time.
It's a long time. Spanning over 3 different countries as well.
Wow.
Yeah. I always said, and we mentioned wanting to do everything I possibly could on the indies before I went off and did whatever. It was always a big goal of mine to be a world champion on the indies, and to be given that opportunity and to be the Dragon Gate USA Open, the Freedom Gate champion for 800 plus days. I unfortunately lost it last WrestleMania weekend, but I won it back in China, so there you go. But yeah, it was a huge goal that I accomplished, because it says one thing to be on the indies and to be, on a show, but to be given the reins and to be the guy, especially a guy like Gabe Sapolsky, who has had such a great track record with guys like CM Punk, guys like Bryan Danielson, guys who he has an incredible eye for talent. And for him to look at me and say, "You're my guy now for 800 plus days. You're my go-to guy." That's a huge just dream come true in its own right. That's a huge coup. That's just words can't really. I can't really express in words how much it meant to me, because I'm not one of those guys who lives in the moment. I'm one of those guys like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I think when I look back on this, like years down the line, I'm like, wow, I really did something pretty cool back then. I'm one of those guys that looks back and I'm like, I can't believe I actually did that. So holding the title for 800 days and now to be champion again, the first 2-time champion, it's crazy to me.
Now, St. Edward, you have another fellow, Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, who is also from St. Edward.
Yep.
The Miz from Parma, from Normandy. Obviously he's doing big things. So it seems like we mentioned this before, but there's a few guys from Cleveland EC3 from the East Side and Willoughby. A lot of guys that are headlining their being part of their promotion. But I mean, is Cleveland, do you think, a hot area for wrestlers to start their careers and coming from the area, or do you think that's okay? Well, 4 guys have made it big.
I think so. I mean, I think Cleveland as a whole has always been a great territory for great professional wrestling. Not even mentioning just the guys that have come from here, but the guys that have come through here.
Yeah.
You look at the place where I trained, Cleveland All Pro Wrestling. It was run by JT Lightning, and it ran in Turner's Hall, the place AIW used to run before it shut down. The names that were in that building before they made it big, like I mentioned, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson. Yeah. You can it's a literal who's who have come through Cleveland, Ohio, and been on independent professional wrestling shows, and now they're off on TV. They're off megastars.
Yeah.
So when people ask me if they should go to an indie wrestling show, I always say, like, if you come to an indie show now, you never know who you're going to see.
Yeah.
Like, you look at me, you look at whoever, you never know what's going to happen 5 years from now. So don't you want to be there? I always compare it to, it's like watching your favorite underground band and then having them go off and be mega superstars.
That's a great comparison.
So you get a chance to go off and see these guys at their infancy 5 feet away from you. You get to go up to the merchandise table, shake their hand, buy a T-shirt, get an 8x10, whatever, and you don't have to stand in line for however many hours to do it. So you never know what can happen. Come to an indie show, give it a chance. But I'd say Cleveland, Ohio has always been a great hotbed for professional wrestling. It's a great location, too, because you have Philly, which isn't that far away. You have New York, which isn't that far away. Right. It's really in a great location where a lot of guys would come through here. And,
Now, I know you had some tryouts for WB. We talked about your match with MVP back in the day, and you've had tryouts for TNA. I want to ask you for WWE. You've been obviously backstage. Any interaction with Vince McMahon?
It's funny you mentioned that because now we're going back to the Cedric Von Hausen story. The way the Cedric Von Hausen thing even came about was so ridiculous to me. I'm 18 years old at the time.
You were 18?
18 years old at the time.
I
was young.
Yeah, it was a while.
And you're only a couple years into doing this.
Yeah.
Like full time.
Yeah. So around that time, I was sort of running the training center for Cleveland All Pro Wrestling as well because, and it's funny to say that being I was so young, but like JT just didn't want to come by anymore. So he's like, hey, you know what you're doing now. You can take it over. So I was there waiting for the students to come in, and I fell asleep in the ring because no one was coming because like WWE was in town that night. All the people were like, we're going to the WWE show. We don't want to go to training. But I was like, I'm going to training. So I fall asleep in the ring, and I've woken up by my mom running down the steps of the building, yelling my name. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I look over at my phone, and I have so many missed calls. And it's my mom, and she's like, my mom comes in the room, and she's like, Johnny, WWE just called. They want you for the show tonight. Wow. And I'm like, what? Yeah. Why? Like, that's so random. So 18-year-old me is like, oh God, what? Okay. So we run home, we grab my gear, we drive to the Gund Arena at the time. And I'm like, what do I do? I don't even know how to, what do I, like, do I go? So I try to go in the front door with my gear bag because I have no idea what to do. Yeah. No one told me anything. And then, of course, like, yeah, you don't come this way. You got to go around back.
Right.
So I go around back, and it's like 6:30 at the time, and the show starts at like 8 something. So it was like a last minute thing. They needed a guy for. They probably rewrote something. We need a friggin' guy from Liechtenstein. Get this effing guy. I fit the profile they wanted, so they called me. So I go in. The agent comes up to me. He came to me. I meet MVP, and we go over everything. I'm like, okay, cool, that's easy enough. And they're like, okay, now we're gonna take you to costume. And I'm like, costume? That's weird. I got my own gear. Like, why would we need to go to costume?
Who was your agent?
I'm trying to remember at the time. I want to say it was Arn Anderson, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
It could have been Arn Anderson. And then they take me to costume, and they show me. They pull out the lederhosen, and they're like, "This is you're the Liechtenstein champion, Cedric von Hausen." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So like, I don't go in the locker room at all. They like undress me and like put this stuff on me like in front of everybody. And I'm like, this is really embarrassing.
Wow.
Like divas are getting their makeup on next to me. And I'm like 18-year-old me, like, oh God, I'm so shy and embarrassed. So I get this stuff on, and they're like, oh man, you look good. We're going to take you to go see Vince now. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what? Vince? Like who Vince? And like, yeah, we're going to come over here. So the guy takes me, and he takes me to Vince's office, and he's like, hold on a second. He knocks on the door, opens it up a little bit, looks in, and Vince's he's like, come on, waves me in. And I go in, and it's like an evil villain. He's like sitting in this big chair, and his back is turned to me, and he like spins in the chair, and there's Vince McMahon, and I'm dressed like an elf in front of him. And he looks at it, he's like, looks good. And he says like, oh, he's really nice. He like thanks me for doing it and all that stuff. And I'm like, it's weird. It's so strange. So I leave. And then before my match, I'm waiting in Gorilla, and like Gorilla positions like Vince and Stephanie, and like everyone just waiting there, just watching the monitor. So I'm like, oh my God, this is so nerve wracking. Because like, everyone's just watching it. Like all these legends are sitting in a row watching what I'm about to do in an elf costume. I always have to keep saying that. So I go out and I do the thing. I get my nose busted open from a kick. It's fine, whatever. And I come in the back, and Vince McMahon's sitting right there, and I come through the back, and he's like, you okay? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, good job, kid. And I'm like, okay, that was great. I'm 18 years old, and I can retire now.
Yeah,
because Vince McMahon just told me,
for?
good job, kid.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah. So that was the first time I ever met him. So yeah, it was a good experience.
Now I've been backstage for a show, and know everything. They run through everything and everything, promos, and they go in the ring, and everything is run through. Do they tell you everything? Like, hey, this is what it's gonna be a squash match. You're just making a job. Like, this is what's gonna happen. So you knew going in there that I was...
Yeah, absolutely. It was... I think the segment was only like 15 seconds into that.
Yeah.
It was like this, and this. So yeah, it was very, very cut and dry. Everything was given to me beforehand.
Poor Johnny comes out, waves to the crowd.
Yeah, what was going through your mind when you came out through the curtain and you're in front of...
Yeah, did you do some research on how you should act as a person from Liechtenstein?
No, that was all just ad-lib. That was all improv, guys. All improv, on the fly. What a pro I am. That wave really got it down. The wipe the feet before I got in the ring, that was all just... I was like, this character, I think, would really do this. This Liechtenstein guy. Yeah. It's really funny, too, because like my mom... she drove me there, and she's like, oh, my son's going to be on WWE, so we're going to go and we're going to see him. So she bought, like, nosebleed tickets to come, and she's sitting around other people, and she's, like, really proud. She's like, my son's going to wrestle tonight. Yeah. My son's going to wrestle tonight. And she doesn't know I'm going to be an elf. She thinks I'm just going to be me.
Yeah.
So she's like, I come out in this elf, and they're like, she's like looking. She's like, is that him? And they're like, that's your son? She's like, yeah, I guess that's my son.
Oh my goodness! And then you were on for NXT security guy.
Yeah,
you did that too.
Yep.
That's basically the same bet they called, wanted some guys, and
pretty much. Yeah. Basically, like that's been the thing every single time. Then that was the Daniel Bryan segment.
Yeah.
To where him and Michael Cole were doing something, and it's funny because I wrestled Daniel Bryan before he went to WWE, and I wrestled him after he came back, after he got fired for that time period. I was wrestling him his first matches back as well. So like I wrestled him before he went. So I knew him a little bit, but I didn't know him like that well. I didn't know him as well as I would get to know him when he got fired. So like we do this thing, and they're like, their thing with that one was they're not going to tell us what's going to happen. They were just going to be like, so it was the complete opposite. They're like, he's going to go off somewhere, you just got to stop him. It wasn't like we got to walk through the tracks. It was just like, They want your natural reaction to trying to wrangle Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
And I think Vince was there too, and he was like, he's small and fast, so you better get ready.
He's a quick one.
And he was going for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was another one of those things where it's just it's a cool experience. You're back there, and you know it's like I said, you grew up watching the product, so you're a huge fan, and to be able to go back there and work for the company and accomplish a dream like that is really cool.
All right, Johnny, we're going to wrap it up here. Really appreciate you coming on. I'd love to have you on again, and look forward to seeing you on February 20th. AIW's I Choose You at Our Lady Carmel at school. It's in Cleveland. $20 for general admission, and $30 VIP are sold out. So this show tickets are going to go fast for this. And you're in the 6-man, and who else is going to be on the card? We're going to have John to talk about it, but who else will be on the card?
Like I mentioned, my girlfriend Candice LeRae will be there. She'll be wrestling men. I'm not weirded out by that at all. Guys like Cole Cabana will be there. Guys like Cliff Compton. Guys like Brian Myers. Guys like Chris Sabin. So many guys. AIW brings in such an amazing list of talent that it's hard for me to even keep track of all of them because every match is basically loaded.
Yeah.
So when you're going to see an AIW show, you're going to see some of the top talent in the world. So this card is no different than everyone else. It's just going to be a fantastic night of professional wrestling.
And don't forget to get your Johnny Gargano t-shirts.
Yes.
At ProWrestlingTees.com. Figured I'd say that since he's wearing
I am
the hoodie right now.
wearing the Pro Wrestling Tees hoodie.
Yeah.
Most of my ensemble, most of my wardrobe is free Pro Wrestling Tees gear.
Plenty of options
Yeah.
for your Johnny Gargano t-shirt.
And you
on Pro
haven't
Wrestling
been emailed by the Indians for using the Chief Wahoo logo. have you?
No, I haven't. Because a designer, his name's Dave Bogart, he gave me like an entire Cleveland connection. So he did like a Cavs logo based off me,
Yeah, I saw that.
Indians logo based off me, a Browns logo, the Johnny Wrestling one based off me. No one's contacted me, so I guess I've been okay so far. Maybe I'm just really under the radar where they don't care.
So far, anyway.
Yeah, so far.
All right, Johnny, thank you so much for joining us, and love to have you again.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me. This is the Bee's Knees, the Cat's Pajamas, and the whole shebang, not to mention the King of Cleveland, and of course, Johnny Wrestling, Johnny Gargano, and you're listening to the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show.
Welcome back. This is Awesome Wrestling Show, rounding out today's episode, a long version because of the interview, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it's been great.
Promoting local wrestling here in Cleveland, and AIW is going to be doing their show February 20th, 7:30. You can go to aiwrestling.com to get tickets. The $30 VIP front row are gone. They were sold out very quickly. The $20 are still there. Like I said, February 20th at 7:30, and we're going to have right now on the show, to round out the show, the owner, promoter, the man of many hats for AIW, John Thorne. John, big event coming up. We've had Johnny Gargano on the show. It's a lot of this, like he mentioned before. This card is loaded with great talent, and Johnny said AIW always brings out the great talent. It's a very good card.
It's taken several years to get to this point. Sometimes I wish we can go back in history and just erase like the first 8-9 years of AIW, because it was a long road to get it to where we could have these stacked lineups. There was some of those early 2005 shows when I was 21 years old. Just they weren't very good, but it's been a lot of trials and tribulations. But I think in the last probably 2 years, we've finally really hit our stride and been able to put together just probably what in my opinion, obviously I'm biased, are the best lineups in independent wrestling right now.
What's been the biggest hurdle, as you're talking about there, to get to this point, to get to a loaded card with a recognizable name, so to speak, that really going to draw people who maybe otherwise haven't seen an AIW show yet?
The thing about independent wrestling is it's kind of like its own version of punk rock music. There's no corporate backing or sponsorships or I don't have some good job where I just have all this money to play with. So it's been such a long process, because as more support came in, we were able to spend more money on talent, and then it just kept going and going over the years. So I think the biggest hurdle is just getting to not having those sponsors and not having that corporate backing. I think it's a positive and a negative, because it's forced us to be able to deal with any situation and kind of evolve and naturally progress. But at the same time, it's taken 10 years to get to that point.
Listen, when you're selling out of hot dogs at the event, you're doing all right.
Hey man, we don't buy that many water hot dogs to begin with. I got to keep my budget under control. I don't got a lot of money.
Just saying, last AIW show I went up to roll for a hot dog, and there were no more.
Well, you should have came to the one in December when we were shocked when 500 people showed up and we sold out of concessions in the first match. We were like, oh man, we better order some more pizza or something.
That's a good problem to have, though, right?
It is a good problem to have, but you know, it's we never want to get in over our heads. You know what I mean? Like we have a very, very distinct idea of, you know, how much money is going to come in and how much money we can send out. You know, one of the things that I think is unique about AIW is myself and my partner Chris Bryant. We don't do this for money. We've never paid ourselves $1 from. You know, we've promoted over 100 shows. We've never paid ourselves once. Everything just keeps going back into the company. So it's kind of a weird time now that, you know, we are seeing so much success because, you know, there were times where, you know, we would have killed to have 60 people in the AIW crowd, you know.
Yeah.
Now, you know, this show coming up, we sold 60 tickets in 20 minutes, which is insane to us.
Now, like I said, there's a lot of, we've talked about it with Johnny, was a lot of different faces that come through AIW, from Seth Rollins, you know, we had Dean Ambrose, Luke Harper, and O'Brien. I mean, a ton of guys have gone on and been successful, and also, you know, older guys that people might remember from the 90s or 80s that come through and also make an appearance as well. But what do you look for to putting a card together? Is it having maybe like a Buff Bagwell come that has an appeal to an audience, or do you rely heavily on more of the guys that are trying to make it than the guys that have made it?
I think it's a mix and match of both, to be honest. A big reason why we've, you know, been able to find so much success is through video distribution, and, you know, the modern technology has helped independent wrestling reach people. It's incredible. We work with a company called Smart Mark Video, and now our shows are available. You know, you can stream them online. You can get an MP4 digital download. You can get a DVD. You can get a Blu-ray. Things like that have helped us reach so many different types of people, and that's, you know, our bread and butter. So you want to get those. People want to spend their money on a different type of wrestling that's not on television. And, you know, that's the guys that can go, like Johnny Gargano or the Kevin Steens or Colt Cabana or any number of, you know, talents that are out, you know, hustling and, you know, grinding through the independent scene. But then again, you know, you can do something and bring in a guy like Buff Bagwell, which does not fit anything we do whatsoever.
Not at all.
And you're going to get people that want to come see that just because it's so weird and just abnormal for what we do to our normal fans. But then a guy like Buff Bagwell is also, you know, you can walk up to some guy you went to high school with who has not watched wrestling in 10 years and say, hey, man, Buff Bagwell's coming to town.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? Really? What? Like,
Yeah.
Can I come and meet him? I'm like, yeah. And, you know, so it's kind of, you know, we've kind of discovered over the last few years, it's kind of trying to do our best to mix those two worlds and, you know, attract the most attention.
You guys have a lot of talented guys on the roster, too, that I think when you bring in somebody like that, you're able to pair them uniquely and very well. You know, like Buff was there the second, or well, both days of the JT Lightning, and the second day was with Ethan Page. And, I mean, what a great personality to have those two against each other. I mean, it was hilarious to watch.
That was a unique situation because, you know, usually when you get these name-type guys who have achieved success, you know, they come in and they call the shots.
Right.
Buff kind of knew that he needed to do something crazy because, you know, he's been out of the spotlight for quite some time.
It's just been a gigolo.
And yeah, well, that's honestly a big reason why we booked him too, because I was trying to cash in on that publicity of that,
right.
That story came out like 2 months before we booked him. I found his phone number as soon as I saw that on TMZ, and I started negotiating with him. But you know, he knew he needed to do something because we had a different type of fan base. You know, we're more of that underground, like I said, punk rock type of thing. So,
right.
You know, if you're in that scene, you know, that's your baby. That, you know, like Johnny said, earlier, that's like, seeing that underground band before it was famous, like that's your thing.
Yeah, I remember when I saw Nickelback the first time.
Right, exactly. So Buff kind of knew he was almost an outsider coming into our world. There's several independent companies where he goes and he just it's just a very, very kind of low production, like not much thought into it. Book a guy like him on top, get a couple local guys, and that's it. Buff kind of knew coming in that he was almost an outsider to our world, so he was very open and he was like, I need to do something. And Ethan Page walked right up to him backstage and was just like, hey, you're doing this move? It's called the Canadian Destroyer. I know you have no idea what it is.
It was incredible.
And he was just like, it's all me. Just this is how you do it. And I'll see you out there. And Buff was like, cool, man. And he did it. And I guarantee you he never saw it. They were trying to show him YouTube videos while his music was playing backstage. And he had no idea what anybody was talking about.
Wow.
And Ethan Page, like later on, told me he thought that he was going to call it off because he didn't know, but luckily it worked out. And that video, we got that up on YouTube and it went viral, and that got us a ton of attention within a 24-hour period.
I mean, they pulled that move off incredibly well. And have you ever seen a Canadian Destroyer?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God,
it's amazing.
I couldn't believe it. And then once I heard the story that he had never done it before, and then this all came about, I was like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, kudos to Ethan for just like rolling with it. I don't know if I would have put my hands or my life in somebody's hands like that. Just like, hey man, here's what we're gonna do. Okay.
It's not that often you see professional gigolo do a front flip pile driver.
No, absolutely not.
Has there been a guy that you tried to get him come on the show? Maybe like a past guy that has like a Buff Bagwell, and they are just awful to negotiate with, and just didn't work out. I mean, I don't want you putting anybody out there, but it has to be a funny story that has transpired over the years.
Man, I'm trying to think. I'll be honest. Recently this week, I was trying to negotiate with the Shockmaster, and he was not really feeling what was thrown at him. Yeah, Typhoon, Shockmaster. There's so many stories where you could try to book somebody, and it's just like. For this year's JLIT, we tried to get Scott Steiner, and that price was just insane.
Absolutely.
And he was not trying to hear any
big
of it.
bad booty daddy.
Which I understand. It probably cost a little extra to get that chainmail and checked luggage.
Yeah.
But the fee he was asking, and there was no room for negotiation. There's been people that we booked, and it was just like a nightmare, like booking New Jack. Where it was like somebody you idolized as a teenager, and then as like a mid-20s adult man, you're like, this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Like when he's stealing all your T-shirts from the merchandise stand, and you're trying to act like you don't see it because he will kill you. Yeah. It's professional wrestling. There's never a dull moment, and it's stressful, and as stupid as it is sometimes, like. The life experience it gives you will prepare you for anything.
Man, I feel like let's talk about this card coming up on the I. Do I have enough choose in here? I choose you.
Correct.
Show. Run down the card for us. I mean, what are your favorite? Have you got in particular favorite matches you're looking forward to that's coming up here on February 20th?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't looking forward to every match. We try to hit, I guess. Like I look at wrestling as just like this niche form of entertainment.
Yeah.
But within that niche, there's so many small niches of, and genres of what, professional wrestling is. There's, the fast-paced technical stuff. There's the high-flying. There's the comedy. There's, there's the television aspect of wrestling, and that's a whole different style. And we try to hit every single possible angle that we can, and then we take, weird things and try to mishmash them together, like you guys spoke about the intergender stuff and things like that. We just try to take everything we can and every possible angle there is and throw it at the wall, because we don't want to exclude any, some people are only fans of this style, some people are fans of that style. We want to try our hardest to hit every single thing to get as many people there. Obviously I'd be lying if I said I wasn't looking forward to the main event for the Absolute title, which is Ricky Shane Page versus Tim Donst. the dudes on TV versus, the local Cleveland, independent guys. You also have Chris Sabin versus Colt Cabana, which, those guys were pillars of independent wrestling when I was going to shows as a 14-year-old kid, just, trying to learn everything wrestling. And to be able to book that match, that's a match that's special to me because those are guys that I was following forever. And now for them to just be working for me all the time is really weird to me. There's Cliff Compton versus Brian Myers, who's formerly known as Kurt Hawkins. We have a 6-pack scramble match, which is kind of our trademark thing where we just take 6 different types of wrestlers and throw them in there all at once and see what happens. That's where Mr. Gargano's girlfriend will be, participating. It'll be her versus 5 other men. There's a 4-way tag team title match. We honestly try to do the most we can to get as many wrestlers under one roof as possible.
Yeah, I would say that pretty much does it right there, as opposed to putting like a Andre the Giant Battle Memorial, whatever, over the top thing. But
there's several independent. When I was going to shows as a teenage kid, young kid, you would go to these shows and the formula would be book somebody who was on TV once, book some local ticket sellers, and call it a day. I want to do the complete opposite of that. I want to book as many possible cool people there are.
Yeah.
Right.
Because, like I said, I'm not doing this to pay myself. I'm not doing this to make money. I'm doing this because I want to present something cool that I would have wanted to go see when I was, 13 years old, asking my dad to go drive me to the show that had Doink the Clown on it. You know what I mean? Like, I would go to those shows and they would be fun, but you could tell that there was a definite drop off in the talent. And that's kind of why I started AIW, to be honest. And now, it took a long way to get here, but now I'm finally able to produce like the vision I had all along, which is bring as many cool and talented and like amazing wrestlers from all over the country, not just Cleveland. I think we probably have more wrestlers from New York than Cleveland at this point. We just want to bring in the best, and we're finally there.
It's interesting that you talk about going as a kid and as a teenager, because as fans of our show and wrestling in general, obviously know at this point when you look at the televised product and WWE being the monster that it is, kind of moving to a PG-rated, obviously, world. But then you go to a show like AIW. Does something like that come into your mind every once in a while? Because the crowd there is just as intense as the wrestling. And you've got people, like in your main event for the title, yelling, Tim effing Dunst. And meanwhile, you probably got kids there. Does any of that ever come into play to you? And you're like, man, this crowd is really taking over. You're like, is that really appropriate for this guy bringing his kid? But you just roll with it, or what?
To me, I mean, I probably think differently. Like, I don't have kids or anything.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't think about anything like that. Like,
right.
I was, when I was 14 years old, like, I was going to ECW shows, like the real ECW, not the sci-fi ECW. So, like, that's kind of what I grew up on. And, and going to, from then I went, to independent wrestling. And I was just like, honestly, like, ECW changed my life. I'm sure it's like a cliche thing to say, but that was like, you felt like you were part of something cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't want to say anything bad about the WWE, but like, I don't feel that they want you to feel like you're a part of something cool. They just want to put out there what they put out there. And there's no sense of like, with independent wrestling, AIW, it's kind of, how ECW was. It's just like everybody is a part of, the ultimate goal, which is those fans know that they're spending their money and we're using it to bring these guys in, to spend more money, to, to give them the, to bring in the people that they want to see, that, they, and offer them the alternative to wrestling that, they don't have to watch Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
And I, to be honest, I don't really ever think about, the swearing or the intense atmosphere, because it sounds kind of bad, but I'm not trying to get a kid in there. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get, the young adult male in there that's, gonna leave the show and probably go out to the bars later on that night. I look at AIW as providing a pre-game drinking atmosphere for normal people. that are just looking for something cool to do. Because that's what ECW felt like to me. You would, that was the only show that I've ever been to. I was young at the time, but you would see just like normal looking dudes. It wasn't like embarrassing to be a wrestling fan. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, these are cool. Like, these are like cool dudes. You know what I mean? Like, you had the Sandman just drinking beer and swinging a cane, and that kind of, I guess, atmosphere went out into the crowd. And it wasn't like these are wrestling nerds. It's like, and I feel like the AIW fans aren't like that. I mean, some of them are, but
some of them are. I've been to the shows. Yeah.
The majority of these fans are, I think we draw a lot of fans that probably aren't even wrestling fans to begin with.
Yeah, they're just there for a good time.
They're there to see something weird and unique, and it's not insulting their intelligence. There's not going to be anything really goofy on the show. All the wrestling looks real as wrestling can get. Sometimes you're going to see some blood. Sometimes you're going to see Johnny Gargano beat his girlfriend. But it's not the cookie cutter stuff that you're going to see on television. And I think that's our appeal.
We appreciate you coming on, and we look forward to the show on February 20th. And you can go on AIWrestling.com for all the info. And we look for having you on again because you have shows coming up next few months as well. So love to promote and support Cleveland wrestling.
Yeah, I guess that's the benefit of our success. We were able to actually book shows in advance for the first time ever. We have a full schedule.
Can I give you this ultimate test here, John?
Let's hear it.
Because Valentine's Day is coming up, and we'll be here after this show goes up. You got to plug this to a guy trying to win his sweetheart over for Valentine's Day. Why should he buy an AIW ticket for the following week and be like, hey, baby, let's go do this next week?
Oh, man, I don't know that anybody should bring their girlfriend to AIW because all the wrestlers are going to probably hit on her. It's a weird and unique experience that even if your girlfriend does not like sitting with you watching Monday Night Raw, you can walk up, you could talk to these people, you can get to know them. It's independent wrestling is like an experience like no other. WWE, you're 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet away from the ring. Like independent wrestling, you're right there. It's in your face. After somebody wrestles, you can walk up and have a conversation with them. It's just a unique experience that unless you've attended independent wrestling, there's nothing I can say that's going to do it justice.
All right, fair enough, guys. You heard it right there. Buy your sweetheart a AIW ticket to the I Choo Choo Choose You show, February 20th, next week.
We'll be there.
We'll be there. Yeah, maybe you'll get laid. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, there's some all right looking girls in the crowd.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey,
we'll work to improve that.
Thanks for Valentine.
Yeah,
it's there.
Thanks for coming on again, John. And we'll have him on soon. I think we'll do this again. This is great.
Yeah, next week we'll have EC3 coming on to also talk about the show and also his career. And he's the first repeat guest on the show, so we have him on next week. Hopefully in studio if he makes the trip to Cleveland before he comes in town.
He should be here. I got him an airplane ticket. So.
There you go. So we'll have him go respond to Johnny Gargano's comments about not showing up.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for this week. We'll be back next week, next Tuesday, for EC3. Go back on iTunes, other interviews, Jerry the King Lawler, Seth Rollins, EC3, all their past shows are on there. CLEsound.com is the website. Be sure to check out all our other shows on the network, and we'll see you guys next week right here.
This is Awesome Wrestling Show.